Baby, you know I'm not good at advice. Why would I go if I don't get advice? Taking these chances, rolling the dice. Thought it from nothing, I'm hitting these heights. All because what I be spit on these bikes. Repeat a few things inside of my sprite. Been out of sleep, you in my device. Thought I could trust you in my life. Can't even trust you in the night. Thought of me, baby.
Hello everybody and welcome to the Next Bikes video, and today guys we are racing round 9 of the Pro Aerial MX GP series, but this one's going to be a little bit different. Obviously this year I've been racing a little bit of EU and some NA races for the MX GP series in the 450 class, but today we are racing the Oceania series, which is the Australian series, on a 250. All right, we're getting back on the 250. Obviously I raced the Social 250 Motocross Championship on the 2 Schmitty and I won that championship, so I'm actually been feeling pretty good on this bike. Now I haven't been riding it a lot, but I said, you know what, I'm gonna put myself against the best Australian 250 riders and just see what happens. All right, the goal is to win. All right, that is the goal. I think it's very possible, but I need you guys to hit that sub button, hit that like button. We got a 30-minute plus 2-minute moto coming up. Let's get this dub, boys. All right, boys, we are on the gate. We qualified 9th, which honestly, not the greatest qualifying session from me, but it gave us a pretty good gate here for the first corner. And honestly, you know, I usually do the tactic where I let guys go. I was not doing that today. I was going full bore, trying to get this whole shot, get a good position. Let's get this dub. That was so close to being such a good start, and then I made a huge mistake. I did not know there was someone on my outside. I said, I'm going to jump to the inside. This next corner, it's going to be great. I'm going to come out about P5. Didn't happen that way. I cross-jumped a guy. That is 100% my fault. But listen, first laps, they're always chaotic. Who knows if I would have made it through that corner anyway. But now the goal is to survive. That's really the goal. First few laps, survive, keep the pace up, keep the intensity up. But we're currently in a pretty good spot here. You can see I'm going to cross-jump again and take another guy out. I do apologize. All right, listen, I don't know what I was doing. I was being a little bit of an idiot. All right, it happens, but I'm gonna lock in. We're gonna fight for this podium. We're gonna try to get this win. All right, that was the goal coming into the race. I gotta try to win this. All right, I know I can. Let's get her done. All right, boys, couple laps in. We are P4 within 10 seconds of the lead. We're doing pretty good. I'm going to be honest. We're doing pretty good. We're making some mistakes, but at least we're in contention. That was the goal through the first 2 laps, and we're exactly where we want to be. But now I have a decision to make, all right? I definitely have a little bit more in the tank as far as speed. Do I want to utilize that now or later in the race when the track's a little bit rougher? I don't know. I don't really know what I want to do. This guy's pressuring me. He's going pretty fast, so I'm thinking at this point, maybe just let him go, right? Don't really risk a battle. Again, I am racing Australians, so the ping difference pretty bad. Like if I try to race someone hard, probably gonna get taken out, or I'm gonna take them out, or something's gonna happen. So I'm gonna let him go. He was a little bit faster to kind of see if I can keep up with him, and if I could just kind of maintain this gap within 10 seconds of the lead, I feel like even if it holds there to the last 10 minutes of the race, I will be able to capitalize on mistakes, because mistakes are gonna get made. This track is super fast. It's about to rut up. There's gonna be some holes forming, and that's when things happen at the front. But also something I wasn't really thinking about at this point was lap traffic. Since this is a series that is just a small region of the entire globe, all right, Australia, not really that big, a lot of these riders that qualified for this race are not the greatest, all right? They are definitely not what we would consider pros. So that meant that us top guys, we were gonna lap people pretty early, and that usually ends in carnage. It's like having a pro rider and a C-class rider on the track at the same time. It is absolutely sketchy. So watch what happens in the next few laps. Hold on to her, brother. Listen, all right, not a lot had been happening up to this point, but we're maintaining that gap. You can see we got P4 close in front of us, so we're doing good. Our pace is good. We're just maintaining things right now, but I look forward on the track, all right? I look ahead, and I start to see some bodies. Tommy boy gonna hit the deck here. We're gonna pass. Look at me jump into that rut. Oh, my goodness, so satisfying. Look at the guys in front of us right here, right? These are not positions. These are lappers, okay? And as I said a couple minutes prior, you put the fastest guys in the game on 250s versus, you know, your average Joseph, if things get quite interesting, okay? Now, you could debate whether the guy in first has a better lapper experience than the guy in fourth. I would always argue the guy in first would have an easier time getting around lappers, but I don't know for sure. All right, this is the thing. All right, there was a huge question mark. Was I going to gain a ton of time on the lead because they had entered lap traffic? I don't know, but you can see here, I'm having to dodge bodies. Things are getting extremely sketchy. This was going to be the race now. It wasn't going to be about just battling for position. It was going to be about who can get through the lappers the cleanest, and I'm usually not the guy that does that, but maybe I'm a changed man. Maybe today is different. We got to keep it moving, boys. The lappers are proving to be tough to get around. You can see I've gained a lot of time on the lead, but here's the thing. Once the leaders lose time to the lappers, then I have to get around them. And that's the question. Can I get around them without losing time? The answer is probably no. You can see there I have to switch up my line. Is NASA gonna get out of the way? Probably not. You can't really depend on these guys to move. You kind of have to just be very vigilant and find ways to get around them. Usually passing them on a straightaway is your best chance. There's not a lot of alternate lines on this track, to be honest, especially on the 250. Everyone's just going full bore in the fast line, so you can see I don't really got anywhere to go. I'm just losing time right now, and I'm holding back. I don't know where to pass this guy. You can see here I have to make a super aggressive pass on the inside, and yeah, not great. We're gonna see here when we fast the finish line how much time we have to the leader. I think it's probably, yeah, back to 10 seconds. So it went from about 5, 6 to about 10 seconds. So that is the issue. You know, it's gonna kind of rubber band with the lap traffic. Maybe we hope for a pile up out front. You can see top two guys are battling. That would help us out, but man, we gotta just keep focused on getting around these lappers. And again, hold that 10-second gap. That leaves us a crash away. That's where we want to be. All right, so we're about halfway through the race. We're in a pretty solid P4. The gap is starting to widen a little bit to leaders. I think that's because they found a bit of a gap in the lappers, and so that's not great. I mean, I don't like to look and see that I'm 15 seconds behind, but I also know what can happen in these races. All right, gaps can shorten very quickly. Crashes can be very long. There's pretty deep ruts on this track, so if you fall sideways, get your tire stuck in a rut, I mean, you could lose 7-8 seconds in one crash. So I need to just stay consistent. All right, stay consistent. Listen, the bad start, all right, the mediocre start, it wasn't helping me. All right, it's so much easier when you get a good start and you can, you know, have a little bit of a better lapper experience and just kind of go. You know, you kind of got free track the first few laps. So that's proving to unfortunately have not done me very good. But I'm also not riding the quickest pace. All right, the guy in third has kind of gapped me. I'm not being me. All right, I need to step it up. All right, I need to look at the clock and say, all right, I'm halfway. I gotta go. I gotta get on the throttle, hold down R2, and get up into that podium and maybe battle for a lead. I don't know. We'll see, boys. Let's keep her going. Big mistake, boys. Massive mistake. Also got unlucky there, getting the back tire stuck in the rut. But we're getting up. We don't lose a ton of time. But listen, man, I kind of got in the mindset. I saw 10 minutes left. I'm like, I have to send it. Literally first corner, I'm trying to send it. I make the stupidest mistake over the bars. But anyway, we still have time. This race is far from over. Trust me, I've seen crazier things happen, and I know that, all right? I just have to keep it going, all right? I have to keep the pace up. I felt like my pace was getting a little bit quicker. I wasn't gaining much time on the lead, but I was really just waiting to anticipate a mistake and capitalize. But now the gap's up to 21 seconds. That is a lot of time to make up. But things change quickly in MX Spikes. Let's keep it moving, boys. Things do indeed change quickly. The guy in third was about 12 seconds ahead of me not that long ago. Now we pass him for third. We're in a position to get a podium, and then in Moto 2, if we could win the overall. So this was huge. I really needed this P3. And again, the gap to the front two was pretty massive. I wouldn't say it was over. I wouldn't say catching them was an impossibility, but there's not a ton of time left, all right? You got 8 minutes plus a couple laps. I don't know. I'm not gonna put anything off the table. I just gotta go and get this P3. This P3 is all I can think about. That's a good first moto. Not being on the 250 in a while. This is my chance. But you can see there, the gap is starting to fall to the leader. We're gaining time, so who knows? If we get that gap under 10 seconds to the lead, we could make a crazy comeback and an amazing push and get this victory. Come on, boys. We gotta keep moving. Listen, there's not much I could do there. Listen, I selected the middle rut, and I saw he went down. I said, please, bike, go to the left. Just go to the left. It didn't. I tried to jump over it. That did not work. A little bit of a clip piece. Went over the bars, off the track. Got a ton of cuts, too. That was almost worst case scenario. So we lose P3. I'm a little bit angry, I'm going to be honest, because now P5 is right behind me, so I could fall from P3 to P5, and it's not even really my fault. I have to breathe. All right, I have to breathe. We still got a lot of time. We got over 5 minutes plus 2 laps. All right, that could add up to about 9 minutes of race time. We still have time to get that P3. Okay, we cannot forget about it. All right, I might be pissed right now, but there's still lappers that can hold them up. All right, there's still time to be gained. We got to get moving. That guy, I'm gonna be honest, he physically assaulted me. It had to be on purpose. There's no way, dude. There's no way. There's no way someone P4 passes you and you speed up to take him out. I guess that's what happens, dude. That's what happens when people know who you are. You get treated different. It is what it is. Some people think that lappers just move out of the way for me. I'm gonna be honest, I feel like it's either one side of the spectrum. It's either people are super nice and cautious, or they're on the other side where their goal is to race me or just take me out. It sucks, but it is what it is. I mean, it happens to other people too. It's just, you know, it's just MX bikes, especially if you're doing an off series like this. A lot of these guys have never seen me before, never raced me, so they feel like it's kind of their chance to, I don't know, get in a video or something. You don't really get that with NA and EU. I've kind of already seen those guys a lot in that class, so you don't see a lot of weirdos, but I don't know. It is what it is. We ended up actually getting P4 somehow. I thought I was going to be like all the way back in like P6 after that crash, but yeah, we get P4. Second moto was actually one of the craziest motos I've ever had in the game. Absolutely insane. It was an emotional roller coaster. I got within like 3 seconds of the lead at one point, but ended up getting P4 in the second moto as well. So we ended up getting P4 overall on the day. It's not too bad. It's definitely a disappointment. I should have at least been on the podium. I'm way too good at the game to not be on the podium racing Australians. No offense to the Australians, but if I'm getting P4 here, that means I'm getting P15 in NA. Like, that's just the reality. So I don't know. Do I ride the 250 for outdoors this summer? I have to commit to a bike. The 450 has been kind of boring to me recently. Maybe the 250, you know, stirs it up a little bit. Maybe I get some motivation to try to get faster. I don't know. I feel like I rode pretty good. Just a lot of mistakes. Didn't really have the consistency. So anyway, if you guys hit that sub with that like button, I really appreciate it. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.